In this fight, the heroes have a clear objective. They need to figure out how this book works, find the right spell, and then use it to dispel their overpowering opponent. In this fight, the objective is to, I suppose, defeat their opponent. We can ask the same question in D&D. Why do the player characters fight in this particular combat encounter? Often the answer is as simple as because they need to defeat their opponent. They need to hack them down until they don't move anymore. And that's the whole objective with the fight. But objectives in combat can be much more interesting than that. And in this third installment of Improving Combat, we will look at how you can implement more interesting objectives in your combat encounters and how they make combat more enjoyable. Creating an objective for your players in a combat encounter is actually quite simple. Basically, anything you can do out of combat, you can do in combat, only now the stakes are much higher. A simple example is a locked door. Outside combat, getting through is only a matter of rolling a lucky lockpick check, or if that fails, then maybe someone can just try to kick in the door. Eventually, the players will get through in their own time. But in combat, each attempt to get through the door costs a character's action, which could otherwise have been spent on fighting their opponents. And every failed attempt increases the danger by keeping the party pinned down. Of course, you need a strong incentive for the players to actually try to open the door during combat instead of just waiting until afterwards. So maybe their opponents could be too numerous for them to fight and the door is the only escape, or maybe someone behind the door is in urgent need of saving, something that makes opening the door during combat a time-sensitive objective. A more advanced example is exposition. It usually comes from books and journal pages and directly from the mouth of NPCs, and is usually something that happens outside of combat. But what if the party has to stay around and listen to a recorded message in this magical gem while they're fighting off the temple's dragon wardens? On each initiative count 20, they get another 6 seconds of information, and then they have to survive another entire combat round to get the next bit. Maybe at one point they decide that they have heard enough to proceed without listening to the rest of it because they've been quite battered by these dragon wardens, or maybe they want to stick around for the whole thing. Cooking is usually an out-of-combat activity, but what if the party has to cook this delicious meal for a court of cloud giants in order to impress them enough to give them an audience? But they have rivals who try to interfere with it. They come in trying to knock the characters unconscious while they're cooking, maybe trying to throw the wrong ingredients into the pot to spoil the taste, and the party has to defend themselves while still cooking because they need to impress the cloud giants. Looting is usually done after combat, but what if the party has limited time to grab all the riches in a floating underwater tomb while being attacked by the interred undead? They can use their action to fill their pockets with jewelry and riches, or use it to fend off their assailants. These are examples of how you can add ordinary activities to combat, but you could also look at it from the other way and add combat to some kind of ordinary activity you had already planned. Either way, the result is the same, a combat encounter that has more going on than just whacking enemies with swords. People love making choices as long as they are low stakes, which is why many games are basically just about making a long string of choices. So another way to make objectives for your combat encounters is to look for ways to give your players choices. In an encounter with no objective, the choices are usually simple as: which enemy do you want to attack? Do you want to heal someone or attack someone? Which spell do you want to use? And this is fine, but let's see if we can make these choices more compelling. Can we make the players choose between using their full powers or hold themselves back? Maybe the party needs to capture their opponents alive instead of killing them. Do they dare to use lethal attacks like spells or ranged weapons in order to deal more damage, but risking killing their opponents? Do they give up on the objective if they feel like they are losing the fight, so they turn to using their full force in order to save themselves? Can we make the players choose between their own safety or the safety of an ally NPC? Maybe the party needs to protect an NPC while they do this ritual or work some kind of mechanism, and during the fight, the wizard will have to make the choice between putting themselves into melee range of their opponents in order to shield this ally, or keep out of range, saving themselves, but putting the ally at risk of taking the hits instead. Maybe the cleric will have to decide between healing a player or the NPC? Save a friend or an ally? Or can we make the players choose between two factions? Maybe the party tries to help two feuding families to lift a curse on their town, but while working with one family, they run into the other. Will they stay out of the ensuing fight, or will they try to break it up and risk hostility from both families? Or will they side with one family over the other? Or maybe something as basic as, can we make the players choose between a reward and their own safety? Maybe the party has been tasked with protecting these priceless Cholton artifacts, but then a rival museum sends agents to destroy them. Do the players waste their reaction by trying to save this vase that is falling over, or do they save it for some combat utility? Do they spend their spell slots on trying to protect the items, maybe by casting web to keep everything in place, or do they use them on attacking their opponents? Do the players chase after the enemy agents as they flee with one of the treasures, or do they stay behind to shore up this fossil that is now collapsing due to the damage that it sustained during the fight? You want objectives that present the players with a choice between what they normally would do in combat, like attacking or healing, and what they don't usually do, like casting a spell for utility instead of damage, or leaving the front line to hack down a door. Essentially, try to think of some choice or moral dilemma that you could put the players in, and then shape the encounter around that. So far, we have looked at how to add objectives to your combat encounters, but now let's look at what benefits we get from them. Apart from making the choices in combat more interesting, objectives also present opportunities for roleplay during combat. It's easy to forget that roleplay is still a thing once initiative has been rolled, so here are some examples of how objectives can keep the roleplay going. The party has a clear objective: get the old alchemist out of their house before the assassins can strike. But as the assassins open their attack, the players are presented with a new objective that will draw them into character and into roleplay. The old alchemist doesn't want to leave. The party needs to convince them that they're in danger and that they need to come with them. But then a new objective arises. The alchemist wants to leave, sure, but they need to pack their stuff before they go. So the party has to help the alchemist pack up their stuff, pack their bags while still fending off the assassins, and running through the house trying to fetch items and such is bound to lead to roleplay opportunities between the players. Or the party has a very clear objective: convince the Dragon Knight to return to the rebellion. But as soon as the party intrudes on her sanctuary, she attacks them and tries to drive them away. She just wants to be left alone. The objective is still the same, but the circumstances of how it's achieved is probably not what the players expected. They still have to explain the whole political situation and sell the new leadership of the rebellion to the Dragon Knight, but now they have to do it while staying conscious long enough to actually do it. Or the party has a very clear objective: escape across a lava chasm and shake off their pursuers. Only the rope bridge has almost completely collapsed, so some of the players need to secure ropes to swing across, while some other players try to fend off the attackers. The players will have to decide how to safely cross and who crosses first, and how the last character on the other side gets across without being pursued. The characters must make a plan and work together, creating opportunities for roleplay that is not directly related to the fighting. Basically, you're looking for objectives that make the characters interact and talk with each other during combat. To summarize it all, objectives in combat are good because they provide more interesting choices during combat and also offers opportunities for roleplay beyond the initiative roll. One way to add objectives is to look at activities that are usually done outside combat and then shape your encounter so that the players have to do it in combat. Another way is to think of what kind of choices you want your players to make during combat and then shape the encounters around those choices. And lastly, the end goal of objectives in combat is to create roleplay opportunities. So look for ways to force the player characters to interact and talk with each other during the fights. And that is it for today. I'm glad you watched this far, and I hope some of this has been inspiring to you. This is the last video of 3 where I've looked at how you can improve combat. So next time we will move on to side quests, how you make them and what they can do for your game. So if you want to catch that one, you can subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, you can give this video a like and write a comment down below. Maybe if you have a question or want something be more elaborated upon or something like that, or just to say hi. But yeah, until next time, take care of yourselves and I will see you. Goodbye.